1-year ownership review of my Honda Hawk. It has been just shy of 12 months since I have bought this machine already, and I've done a few thousand miles as well as ridden a couple of different Hawks at this point. This was a bike I knew of but never really went into any details and cared to learn about it until this bike popped up for sale. My dad had always mentioned the NT650, a V-twin Hawk. If you ever find one of those, you should try to buy one. And this one came up for sale very local to me, and I decided to go take a look at it, and I ended up purchasing it. This bike has surprised me in a lot of different ways, and it's been a very fun year ownership. But today I want to talk about some of the things I've learned, some of the issues I've had with this bike, how it feels to ride it, would I buy it again, and also just my overall thoughts, opinions I've formulated over the year of owning it. Of course, I've made several videos on this motorcycle here, things I hate, how it rides, things to know before buying, and all of those videos will be linked in the description down below. After this video, go check out some of those if you're looking for more information. For those who do not know what this motorcycle is, here's a brief history. In 1988, Honda came out with a 650 naked bike on an aluminum frame. This motorcycle was way ahead of its time. It was decades ahead of every other manufacturer. This motorcycle might look familiar to you and also might sound familiar to you with the Suzuki SV650, but the SV650 came much later and was very successful for Suzuki. The Ducati Monster is also similar with a slightly different frame. The NT650 for Honda, however, was not a good seller. This motorcycle only ran for 4 years and was produced in only the few thousands. So these Hondas are actually fairly rare and semi-hard to find nowadays. Many of these were turned into track bikes, many of them were wrecked. I'd say about 1,000, 1,500 of them are gone or just not worth bringing back. Either that or they've been modified to the point where you can't bring them back or justify bringing them back. You can still find fairly clean examples of these motorcycles, and they're yet to appreciate. This is a 650 V-twin, single-sided swing arm, very narrow, skinny, lightweight bike Honda produced, and it's a fairly special machine in my opinion, and it's really fun. These motorcycles can be found at bargain prices right now. I honestly don't think the price market on these things will last too longer because how rare, how fun, how special it really is. I don't think it's a bike that's ever going to skyrocket in value like crazy. Never say never, of course, but I do think it's a bike that will see some appreciation and you can ride it, enjoy it, and not lose a ton of money on it. I think you could lose no money on buying one of these machines at the given price point right now. For only a couple of $1,000s upwards towards $3,000, you can pick yourself up a fairly nice bike. To talk about modifications that my motorcycle has, it has aftermarket clip-ons, it has this windscreen, which I don't particularly like how it looks, but it protects the back of the gauges, so I've left it on because I am putting miles on the motorcycle. It has an aftermarket exhaust, and it also has upgraded jets in it. We'll touch on modifications a little more, but I wanted to address it really quick just so you guys know what you're really looking at. The first thing I want to jump into is my opinions and thoughts about riding the bike and owning it. So the very first thing I mentioned when I first bought this motorcycle is I am absolutely obsessed with how this motorcycle rides. And that is true, but the more I've rode it, and I've rode a couple of other Hawks now, the more I understand why people don't like this machine. And the reason isn't what you think. The reason mainly is the setup they come with from factory is very subdued. These motorcycles are fairly underwhelming from the factory. They have high-rise clip-ons, they have a very restricted exhaust as well as very restricted carburetors. It's still a fun bike from the factory, but it's not quite what it could be or what you would expect out of a motorcycle that looks like this. This bike, in my opinion, with the exhaust, with the carburetors, with the clip-ons, is absolutely perfect. The only thing I do want to change, and this is something just because the previous owner was substantially taller than I was, he was like 6'4"-ish, and he put the clip-ons underneath the triple tree here. I would put it on top, just so I'm sitting a little bit more upright in a little bit more of a comfortable position. That position is slightly compromised, but that's literally the only thing I would change, and I'm going to change on this motorcycle. But the bike is very compact, it's very narrow, it's very easy to put into corners, and it's just really fun to ride on the back roads. Find some twisties with this bike. It's got a good footprint to it, and it's just super easy going. It's a very good beginner bike if someone is getting into riding motorcycles. This bike is very easy to ride. Not only that, it has a very low seat height for shorter people, and it's just a very approachable machine that Honda's built, even though it is more of an enthusiast bike in my opinion, and someone who's looking for a raw, more analog, and not trying to be super fast, but just have fun with a bike and just get like a true raw experience with a motorcycle. That's what this is right here. It's not the fastest thing in the world, and it's never going to be, but it's just a really fun bike to ride. I've loved every bit of it, and I've expressed that in pretty much every single time I've rode or taken or talked about this machine and how good it really is, how much it surprised me, and how underrated this bike actually is. Now, to get into some of the issues with the motorcycle, I haven't had too many issues with this motorcycle, but there have been a few. A bigger issue I've had with the bike is the fact that the forks have been leaking since the day that I bought it. They're not super bad, but they're starting to weep more and more, and those seals are going to have to be replaced, and I'm probably going to do a little bit of a treatment to the front end, which is the reason I haven't fully replaced them yet. This bottom section here is very prone to pitting, so I want to see if there's a way I can repaint or restore them somehow and make them look a little bit better. The newer problem I'm having with the bike is the clutch is starting to stick on me a little bit. You know, I'll get back onto the throttle after letting the clutch go, and there's just a little bit of slippage there. The clutch is starting to slip, which means I might have to adjust it, but I think a clutch replacement is going to be the easier and better option in this case. It's not super bad yet, but that's one of the problems I'm starting to have already. I do think it's a little premature in this bike. It could be down to a couple of different factors, just how it's been rode in the past, and also my brother did learn to ride on this bike, but I don't think that's really impacted it too much. I think it's just down to the previous owners and how they've rode the machine. Perhaps they were using a little bit more clutch than they should have over time. It's just worn out. I'll keep you guys updated with that whole situation, what I do, how I fix it, remedy it, how much it costs, all of that. Now, as far as maintaining the bike, I want to do the fluids, do the forks, flush it out one time, flush everything, because the only thing that's gotten done to the bike is oil. So it's about time that it's due for another oil change, as well as just everything, just touch it up one time and get it running nicely, as well as change those clip-ons. Another problem that I have with the bike, not a problem that the bike has, is the fact that the fuel tank is very small. We've touched on it in the past, but I run out of gas really quickly in this bike. If I'm on some of the back roads having a little bit of fun, I have to put this bike into reserve at about 75 to 85 miles on the odometer, on the trip, I should say. I just filled up the gas tank today before filming this, and I got about 95 before I had to click the reserve on, but only getting about 100 miles on a tank is not enough. When you're riding some of the back roads on Wisconsin, you know, if you do have 30-40 miles on the trip already, you only have about 30 or 40 miles more to go, which isn't enough for me because there's not gas stations everywhere out here. So I am always very cognizant of the fuel level with this bike. I wish it was a little bit bigger, but I guess it just boils down to the bike just being a little bit lighter, a little bit more compact. So not the biggest thing to complain about, but one of the issues that I've kind of just wished it had a little bit more fuel capacity. A couple common issues with these motorcycles are the rear shocks do like to go bad. The other thing is the plastics do like to crack. On the plastics, they just have that problem, and that's something you're going to live with. I suppose any older plastics are going to have that, but Honda in particular just likes to use paper thin plastics. Now, the other bigger problem these motorcycles have is the fact that they are restricted from the factory, which is, I believe, one of the reasons they didn't sell all too great, along with just the market wasn't quite ready for it. But I've heard many people like, oh, I test rode one of those when it was new and the bike just had no life to it. And I do agree that they are slightly muted and a little soulless when they don't have some mods on them. It's still a phenomenal bike from the stock aspect, but riding this and riding the stock bike, it's such a big difference that I have to talk about it. Sometimes when you modify a bike, it makes a minor difference and it just kind of awakens the bike a little bit. But for me, if I own one of these bikes that was stock, the way that I prefer to ride, I want to put miles on this bike, I enjoy putting miles on this bike, is with the modification. It's a very easy thing and process to do, and I made a video on it, which once again, I'll link in the description down below. You rejet the carbs, you put pod filters on it, and you put an aftermarket exhaust, which is supposed to be straight piped. But it gets rid of that bread box on it, which deletes a lot of restriction, and it lets the bike breathe quite a bit better. The thing that does is it makes the mid-end much more responsive, and it just makes the bike, when you're putting around some corners, it just makes it so much more enjoyable to have that snappy throttle response. You also do add about 3 horsepower, but you know, most likely, if you're doing it yourself, unless you're very fine tuning it on a dyno, things like that, you're not going to see huge results. even with dynos and everything, you're probably not going to see massive results as far as horsepower, not anything noticeable at least. And that's been my little bit of a 1-year ownership experience with it. The things I love, the things I hate, the things I experience, and just kind of my overall synopsis of owning this bike. If you're thinking about getting one, I highly suggest you do it now, because prices on these things are really good. I just think it's a phenomenal bang for buck, and I think that it's just a really, really great bike to get on. If you guys did enjoy, consider watching some of the other videos. Subscribe down below because it greatly helps the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.